both know that like Neighbor like wouldn't acknowledge it at all.
I could not.
But there's something so refreshing about expecting to get on Smash for commentary and somehow not talking about NBA Street Rules.
Right? Okay, but I feel like both are equally rewarding in different ways, but
Sure.
my brain doesn't work in a way in which that one is rewarding for me.
That's reserved for post-tournament Whataburger.
Yes.
That's where the headspace goes.
Post-tournament Whataburger, the
Ooh,
victor
wait.
will have enough money to go
I just
there.
realized we get a Belmont versus Ken. This sounds like it's going to be so sick. I'm stoked.
Both men are actually full of testosterone and heavy flexing right now.
So Ken is what you get when you evolve Lucas with a Dawnstone, and Simon is with a Duskstone.
You've talked about this at length with people, have you not?
Lunchables.
Oh, God bless.
Is there anyone else to have talked about that with?
That just makes too much sense.
Yeah.
So watch out for up B out of shield. Normally, Ken is really good at pressuring a shield. Like, we'll hit you and be extra safe and just mash tilts on your shield.
Yeah, but Belmont
Simon-
up B, very scary move.
Yeah, surprisingly has a way to deal with it.
It's funny. Both of these characters cannot really approach on the other one's shield in that way because the second you try to get close, it's not like Simon's going to be doing that much, but he
Right.
also does need to be cognizant of it because if Ken is just sitting in shield and you try to get greedy at all, then you're going to get up beat. The inverse is true.
Both of these characters have like a complete inverse game plan as well, where like Belmont's
Yeah.
like, get away from me! And then Ken is literally like, I forget the name, and now I'm super sad, but he's saying, let me in! Let me in! The whole time while Belmont is just running away, tossing the whip and the holy water.
It's the video of that guy in front of the White House. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, and I can't think of his name. Eric Andre?
Yes.
Eric Andre.
No.
I think
Is
yes.
it?
I think yes.
I'm getting a nod. I want to say yes, but I also don't want to be wrong on commentary.
Right.
Nothing is worse than being wrong on commentary.
Understandable. My life. Oh, so that's the smart thing to do. When you get hit by the holy water, let it drip off and hit your hands. And when you fall down, unless the Belmont is specifically looking for that in that moment, of course it eventually becomes like a game of guessing. But if the Belmont is an adept at covering that, you've been hit, so you'll regain ledge invincibility, and then have another opportunity at the next ledge trap.
Absolutely. Man, it is always astounding to me, somehow, still, watching Belmonts on ledge and just looking at how smothering their pressure is specifically when you're just hanging there, because I feel like you have so little to deal with it all the time, and I know that goes without saying, but it really does bear repeating when you're watching players like Yo that are just so keen to just keep you right where they want you on ledge.
And what's crazy is normally Ken feels very much the same way for a lot of characters,
Absolutely.
how suffocating he can be at the ledge, but all of the projectiles and ways that Gio is using like the distance and the whip to get on ledge, he is not worried about Ken at ledge at all.
Absolutely
He turned
not.
that around completely from one ledge to the other.
Also,
ledge trapping Ken.
important to note in this matchup is that Ken up B is one of the up Bs in the game that does poke above ledge,
Yes.
which is really difficult for certain characters to deal with when attempting to ledge trap. The Belmonts don't need to deal with that at all. You can just, you put Holy Fire down, or Holy Water down, you put a cross down, and all of a sudden that zone is controlled without you needing to really commit there, as seen there.
If he doesn't save his jump, sometimes he could just like literally SD because of that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's scary. It's really scary because it's something that you always need to be aware of, and knowing that you're effectively operating without a jump at any given time makes your offstage play a lot more like anxiety-inducing and more likely to choke up on.
He almost rolled into that focus. That was terrifying, but and canceled a little early.
Everything about Ken is terrifying. I'm on a level with you.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm really liking that the way that he's approaching his game plan in terms of he's like playing very hot and cold. He's going to be like, I'm keen to just throw out Hadoken, and I'm keen to also find my openings when I feel like your projectile pressure isn't particularly safe, and I just do what I can as Ken.
His movement around this ledge is also super sick. Great nair to cover the high focus.
That was so smart.
Yeah, multi-hits are super good against that focus.
Absolutely. It's how you deal with the move, but the fact that you've got one of the stronger nairs in the game on the Belmonts to deal with it while also having just one of the best ledge trapping games in general gives you so much coverage in general.
I don't know if that dash stack was meant to be dash stack or meant to be dash in down tilt for sure. There's a couple of opportunities. Like normally dash stack is not what the intended input is.
Yeah, I'm also always staggered by how huge the range on using the whip moves to grab ledges, because it's so much bigger than I ever expect.
It is gigantic. That's the one thing that keeps these characters somewhat viable in a lot of, like, basically Belmonts are in two categories of existence in most matchups, and that's either I invalidate you or I am invalidated.
Ooh. You know who was really good at invalidating? Shoryuken!
Shoryuken's a pretty good move.
I would say so.
Personally, having been victimized by it, I think this move is really good.
You and I are in the same camp, my friend.
But I somehow, after being victimized by Ken, still think he's sick.
I agree. I think Ken is one of my favorite characters to watch, and it's so funny because I've made that opinion very clear, like just chatting around the venue and stuff. And N is like, Ken's lame.
Yeah.
It's so funny every time. It's
Like,
also funny because in the same breath he'll talk about how cool Rob is, but that's only when King K or Grayson are on stream.
Right. I guess that's fair.
Gotta root for the boys.
Anything that your friend does is sick. It doesn't matter.
It's like watching Tony versus Austin earlier.
Yeah.
I would never be caught dead rooting for a DDD a day in my life, but I wasn't rooting for a DDD, I was rooting for Tony.
That's... Oh
Ooh.
my god.
That'll do it.
That's the fragility of
See, I feel
both
bad.
the human psyche and the recovery of the Belmonts.
I feel bad because some Ken player, either in or someone else, is
dead.
going to clip that, is going to clip both of these and be like, wow, that was so cool. And my stupid witticisms are going to be me talking about how I never root for King DDD.
Yeah.
But such is life.
He literally both times dropped down with Nair and then just caught the jump with another Nair because he has so... that Nair usually can confirm into another thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how he's hit it.
The Belmonts, more so than other characters, also need to use that jump early, because if they don't, they run the risk of really getting covered on a lot of their options. Right. So, like, it's a pretty safe bet to assume that you're going to get the call out there, but at the same time, it doesn't make it any less brutal to be on the receiving end of it.
Even if he, like, waits to do the whip, if he reels in early, he just gets smacked by the lingering Nair.
And it's not like the Belmonts really have any ways to delay or meaningfully alter their recovery off stage rather than a mix-up between up B or whip. And even if they don't have access to up B because of the distance, then it's just whip and it should be pretty reliable to cover.
But now we're on the part where Gio actually gets to play the game and it gets scary.
I feel like playing against Simon or Richter is a zero-sum game, right?
Yeah.
Like one player gets to have all of the game, and the other player doesn't.
100%.
And it changes back and forth.
It is always a one-player game when the Belmonts are on the screen. It just changes who is playing the one-player game.
Yeah. It reminds me of a comment that a friend of mine made for me forever ago, and she was telling me about like how I like to play video games, and she's like, fun in video games is a zero-sum game. You just like to have all of it and let your opponent have none of it.
Oh.
And I feel like the Belmonts are incredibly emblematic of that philosophy in that, like, they're just going to play their game, and if they're not playing their game, then all they're doing is trying to get back to a point where they're operating on their terms.
Yeah. I feel like that's a very accurate assessment of the Belmonts.
I feel like that's a lot of zoners, classically at least. Like, Smash hasn't really had traditional zoners in the way that the Belmonts exist until the Belmonts. They have had some, but the Belmonts are just like so archetypical of like what a zoner looks like.
Oh,
That'll do it.
He just did it.
Sure, you can kills.
So
that's the TLDR.
Like, the reason that zoners in Smash don't work the way that zoners in other games do, or haven't at least up until this point, is like, first of all, movement. Like, it's way harder to get stuck in a spot where you are forced to block or jump over this projectile. But also, like, you can't just die to getting ticked by Mega Man pellets.
Yeah.
You're not playing on stamina. Like, you have to have a kill move. So eventually the zoner has to do something.
That's true.
They're either playing for time, which is not even like a normal zoner thing. They're like, they'll chip you to death.
The Smash rule set is not fundamentally constructed to allow for playing for time. It